Hi, I'm Leon, the founder of Audio Advice. This video is an overview of the new McIntosh MDA200 digital to analog converter. The MDA200 is only the fourth DT converter McIntosh has produced. The D150 has been discontinued for a few years. During that time period, McIntosh came up with the brilliant idea of supplying the DAC portion as a separate module you could insert into many McIntosh pieces to add digital sources should you want to. If you know much about the 70-plus year history of McIntosh or own their great gear, you know they care a lot about creating products that will last for generations. While power amps and preamps do not really go through revolutionary changes over time, the digital side of things changes pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things. McIntosh has been building their gear in Binghamton, New York since 1951. Some of their original gear is still in operation today and commands very high prices on the used market. Even their brand new gear holds its value better than any brand I know of. Whether it's the classic looks, high quality sound that lasts for decades, pride of ownership, or all three, if you're a McIntosh owner, you're always confident you made a wise investment. Take one look at the new MDA200 and you know instantly it's a product from McIntosh. Its slim profile has the timeless black glass faceplate with the McIntosh logo tastefully illuminated. Their classic rotary control knobs and custom machined aluminum end caps also let you know immediately it's another great McIntosh piece of gear. And like all their units with the display, you can set the dim level in the trim settings. I love the way McIntosh always thinks about how one of their components will look paired with another one or more. This shone through in my testing when I put the MDA200 right next to my C22 preamp, whose knobs are identical and have the same horizontal spread. Even the height of the MDA200 equal the exact height of the glass panel section of the C22. Now that's attention to detail. McIntosh has also recently moved to using a new system to illuminate the front panel or their meters. LEDs can lose output over time if you drive them hard, so they developed a new system using a larger number of very tiny surface mount LEDs. These are driven at a low power level and should provide decades of service. Just one more small detail that shows how their engineering team thinks about the long term. The MDA200 can serve as a standalone DAC or a full-function digital preamp in a digital-only system. There are a few other DACs on the market that offer both these functions, but I don't know of any that thought of everything the engineers in Binghamton came up with for this great new model. Their team wanted any McIntosh owner to be able to add the MDA200 to their system while giving it all the modern control features. With this in mind, it has both balanced audio outputs and unbalanced RCA outputs on the rear panel. It has standard data ports we usually see on McIntosh pieces that can pass commands, but it also has a power control in and out, which means you could use that out to control power on and off of a McIntosh or any power amp with a trigger. There's also an RS-232 for control system use. Input-wise, you have 7 digital inputs. There are 2 coax digital, 2 Toslink optical digital, 1 USB for computer audio, 1 MCT for connecting up a McIntosh transporter player with the MCT connector, and finally an HDMI connector with ARC. HDMI ARC is a great feature found on a lot of 2-channel audio products these days. It allows you to connect up a TV that has ARC or eARC to your unit. The TV in the unit can then be set to accept CEC control, which means your TV remote will turn on the MDA200, select the HDMI input, and control its volume should you be using it as a digital preamp. This lets you get TV audio to your nice 2-channel system, greatly enhancing its sound. I do have to point out though, in our experience, and this is an industry issue, not McIntosh, the CEC control works better now than it did a few years ago. So you'll have better luck with this feature with newer TVs. In any case, it's great to be able to get TV sound via HDMI to the MDA200. But McIntosh took this feature even further. Most units like this require you to set up your TV to output PCM, but the MDA200 will accept Dolby Atmos or DTS and look at the incoming signal and decide the best way to route the audio to your left and right speakers. McIntosh also gives you the option of manually adjusting the lip sync to align your speakers with the voices on your TV, or you can have it happen automatically. McIntosh also understands their customers like to customize their systems, so you can rename any of the inputs to whatever you wish, and you can even set them trim levels up in case one is louder or quieter than the others. All input switching is done like the current McIntosh preamps, using electronic switching, which provides noiseless, reliable, and distortion-free input selection. Should you use the USB input for computer audio, know that the MDA200 is designated as Roon tested, so you could use the nice Roon interface to access your digital library. I discovered in my testing the input codes on my C22 were the same as the factory default input codes for the MDA200, and it made a mess of things, but cleverly McIntosh allows you to assign another set of codes to work with the MDA200 in an easy-to-use setup menu. If you want to use the MDA200 as a DAC with your existing audio system, it will come preset with fixed output out of the box. However, it can function as a 7-input digital preamp if you go into the menu and change its audio output to be variable. Quite a few DACs on the market have these two options, but a lot of them just do not have the gain to properly drive a power amp. It works, but you lose out on dynamics. McIntosh gave it a very low output impedance, which means it can easily drive long cables should your power amp or amps be located at your speakers. And unlike most DACs that top out at 2 volts RMS output, the MDA200 can put out 8 volts. It should be easily able to drive any power amp even with long cable runs. And if you're using it in DAC mode, the volume levels are done with a new precision digitally controlled attenuator system with a tracking accuracy of 0.5 dB. But the real magic in the MDA200, and the main reason I think it's going to be a timeless piece, is the way McIntosh did the digital board. If you have followed audio over time, you know fully well digital technology does not stand still. In just the last decade, we've gone beyond CD quality with high-res audio and DSD. The first two McIntosh DACs had great technology for their time, but as new standards came out in the digital world, they were left behind. Several years ago, McIntosh recognized these changing times and had a complete turnaround in how they designed 2-channel digital audio components. They came up with the idea of a digital audio module that contains the digital components. Their first was called the DA1, and we've recently seen the DA2 emerge. The MDA200 has a big slot on the rear panel where the DA2 module slides into. It's not a matter of if, but when. I'm sure there'll be a DA3 one day, as history shows digital technology just keeps getting better and better. If you have another McIntosh unit now with a DA1 built in, you can upgrade to the new DA2 for $1,000. This design should keep your MDA200 current for years to come, allowing you to have the latest and greatest when better tech comes out. The DA2 has some fantastic DACs inside too. The coaxial and optical inputs process digital signals up to 192 kHz with 24-bit resolution. The digital MCT DIN connection allows the streaming of high bandwidth digital signal DSD, PCM from external McIntosh sources. The USB input processes PCM digital signals up to 192K with 32-bit resolution and decodes up to DSD 512 digital signals in DXD 24-bit with a sampling rate of 384K. McIntosh uses what's called their quad balanced 8-channel 32-bit digital converter DAC. You may wonder why a 2-channel DAC needs 8 channels of DACs. Well, there are 2 big advantages. First, if you parallel 2 DACs, you get a 3 dB improvement in signal noise ratio, but that's just half of it. These are run in a balanced mode where there are 2 in one channel parallel for the positive half of the signal and another 2 in parallel for the negative half. This type of balanced design greatly reduces noise. Once the digital signal is converted to analog, it leaves the DA2 module and passes over to the analog preamp side of the MDA200. McIntosh used the circuit design in their very popular and currently $8,500 C53 solid-state stereo preamp in the MDA200. Both the DA2 and analog preamp are supported by fully regulated power supplies to ensure great sound even when you have some power line fluctuations. All of this great tech adds up to another wonderful piece of gear from Binghamton, New York. But there is one thing missing, and that's a way to stream music. I asked McIntosh about this and got a very honest and sensible answer. They wanted to create the best sounding DAC they could and not be limited by having to pay license fees and keep up with the software changes of all the various streaming music services. There are already several very good and inexpensive streamers on the market with digital out, which allows you to connect their streamed digital feed up to the MDA200 and take advantage of its far superior DACs and analog circuitry. Both the Blue Sound Note or Cambridge CXN models would be good choices in my opinion, which is actually how I went about testing the MDA200. Now, if all of this tech sounds like you might have a hard time setting up, Rest assured, when you purchase your MDA200 or any piece of gear for that matter from Audio Advice, you'll have our team of passionate audio experts behind you to help you with any setup issues and give you tips on how to make your system sound its best. I set the MDA200 up with a pair of JBL 4367 floor standing speakers driven by a McIntosh 1502 power amp with the C22 preamp, the MDA200 as a DAC, and fed the MDA200 with the coax digital out from a Cambridge Audio CXN V2. I use this system mostly for vinyl playback, and the Cambridge provides quick access to digital music. For grins, I played a few tracks first on the CXN V2, which in my opinion is one of the best streamer DAC preamps on the market today for its modest price. When I switched over to the MDA200s as a DAC, I was not prepared for the huge improvement I heard. Now bear in mind, the MDA200 is about 4 times the price of the CXN V2, but like all recent pieces of McIntosh gear I've tested, the MDA200 is just incredibly musical with the rhythm and pacing you'd expect to hear from the best British gear. The test tracks I used included some of my old favorite standards like Lay Me Down from Crosby & Nash, Canola Fields from James McIntosh, Sandman from America, and Don't Get Around Much Anymore from Harry Connick Jr. Canola Fields was the first, and I heard a huge, warm yet detailed soundstage with pacing that had my feet stomping. The bass line was deep and impactful, but also very tuneful as well. As I played through all of these cuts, I heard dynamic contrast that just exploded with an image that was pinpoint, yet was outside the speakers and very three-dimensional. Sandman is a great cut to test out sound systems, as it can sound very edgy if the system is not just right. But with the MDA200, it was extremely enjoyable. This led me to pull out an old favorite that never sounds great but is wonderful music, Steppenwolf's Magic Carpet Ride. I cranked this one up and never sensed one trace of hardness, as the MDA200 revealed all kinds of small details, while at the same time allowed me to fully enjoy this great song. In summary, the MDA200 is yet another wonderful product from our friends in Binghamton, New York. Like all McIntosh gear I've heard recently, it lets you enjoy any music in your library while letting you hear things you never knew were on the track. And anyone will love the way it makes you just want to tap your toes and grin when the music starts swinging. For McIntosh owners, this is a no-brainer DAC to add to your system to get you enjoying digital sources. But the thing I want to emphasize is, if you're in the market for a high-performance DAC, you should give the MDA200 serious consideration. The fact that it has a DAC slot that allows you to change the digital side as things progress is very compelling. Or if you own a current McIntosh piece of gear that lets you install this amazing DA2 digital board, I highly recommend that as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.